I'm going to do a little introduction to Literary Lapses by Stephen Leacock. Stephen Leacock was a Canadian teacher, political scientist, writer, and humorist. Born 1869, died 1944. Between the years of 1915 and 1925, he was the best-known English-speaking humorist in the world. He is known for his light humor along with criticisms of people's follies. I would argue as a Canadian that what he is primarily known for is that he has an award. In 1947, the Stephen Leacock Award was created to meet the best in Canadian literary humor. In 1969, the centennial of his birth, Canada Post issued a 6-cent stamp with his image on it. So yeah, it's that Leacock Award that's like, oh, humor, Stephen Leacock. So what I have taken is I've grabbed one of his books that falls within my purview. It is, where is it? Literary Lapses. The first thing that comes up on his Wikipedia is Literary Lapses, published in 1910, which is basically first self-published by the author in Canada in 1910. The work was commercially published in England later the same year with additional stories and sketches. This transition is of the 11th printing of 1999. So Literary Lapses, which is, and there's the book, which I have read. My Financial Career, Lord Oxenhead's Secret, Boarding House Geometry, The Awful Fate of Melphonius Jones. I didn't get a Christmas letter. Where do we get? I get the New Food next. So this, obviously I have the very first 1910 version, which is okay. I mean, it's humor, it's old humor, and indeed that makes it something that is it can age. I did like Melphonius Jones, basically this guy who is so polite it kills him. He can't do the lies. So I'm enjoying it so far. It is definitely very light. They are very short pieces, written for a magazine, Early in his career, Leacock turned to fiction, humor, and short reports to supplement and ultimately exceed his regular income. His stories, first published in magazines in Canada and the United States and later in novel form, became extremely popular around the world. So it was said in 1911 that more people had heard of Stephen Leacock than had heard of Canada. So he was a really big thing at the time. His particular humor seemed to really hit. So old jokes sometimes don't age, but that is what I am reading. That's what I figured I should put a little introduction here. It's near the end of his life. U.S. comedian Jack Benny recounted how being introduced to Leacock's writing by Groucho Marx when they were both young vaudevillian comedians. Benny acknowledged Leacock's influence, and 50 years after first reading him, still considered Leacock one of his favorite comic writers. He was puzzled as to why Leacock's work was no longer well known in the United States. His works can be described as balancing an act between cutting satire and sheer absurdity. So that is probably a good way of putting it, and maybe some of the things aren't so cutting, and maybe some of the things are so absurd that they just are slightly alienating to writers now. But he did have a big influence. If he's influencing people like Jack Benny and Groucho Marx, or they're enjoying his work at the very least, that says something about the fellow. All right, that's my introduction to Literary Lapses by Stephen Leacock.